CNN Sports is a Sunday for the surly. While Frank Robinson is now all smiles when it comes to the utterance umpire, Doug Rader is riled, run out before he even turned in his lineup card, in a game which again was decided on a disputed foul call. While California gets contentious, the A's creep closer with the aid of a grand salami. In San Francisco, no fun in the sun, while there was a day-long deluge in Dixie. The Busch Classic served watered-down suds, and the queen of women's golf is a king.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our show. I'm Hannah Storm.
And I'm Gary Miller. On a Sunday saturated with showers, which prevented the completion of a golf tournament, rained out at one baseball game and prolonged another, but simply made it soggy at Baltimore's battle of the divisional leaders, last game of a big series.
Oh, yeah, between the Angels and the Orioles, and the battle between division leaders in the American League was almost secondary to the battles with the umpiring crew, battles that just a week ago prompted Orioles manager Frank Robinson to threaten retirement. And in this series, two close calls went Robinson's way for wins, and it was Angels skipper Doug Rader who was hot under the collar after Mike Devereaux's disputed home run gave the Orioles a win last night. And he was still pretty mad about it today before the game, so mad, in fact, that ump Ken Kaiser tossed Doug Rader before the game even started. Top of the fifth, field still wet after an hour-long rain delay, as illustrated on this play by Steve Finley and Joe Orsolak. They go sliding in the game, bottom of the seventh, and the score was tied at 1-1. Mike Witt facing Jim Traber hits a shot to right, scoring Brady Anderson with the go-ahead run, and the Orioles would take the 2-1 lead. And then in the top of the ninth, Greg Olson facing Lance Parrish. 1 out, Brian Downing on second base. And Olson strikes him out looking. Not the same story for the next batter. At the plate, Jack Howell. He loops the single into left. That would score Downing from second, and the game was tied at 2-2. As Olson would blow his first save in 16 opportunities. In the bottom of the 11th, Mickey Tettleton facing Willie Frazier on in relief. And Tettleton hits the grounder. It goes just over first. Another close call, and this one is called fair. Could have gone either way, but it scores Cal Ripken all the way from first. The Orioles win in another slightly controversial call, this time by a score of 3-2, as Orioles starter Bob Milacki struck out 7 in 7 innings, the most by an Orioles pitcher this season. Baltimore maintains a 6-game lead in the East. The Angels have a half-game lead in the West over the A's, who are visiting the Sky Dome in Toronto. And we pick this game up at the bottom of the fifth. No score. Greg Myers lines one off the foot of Mike Moore. Carney Lansford's throw to first is wild. Lloyd Mosby tries to score on the play, but he just can't dance around. Terry Steinbach got him. In the bottom of the sixth, still no score. Junior Felix on first. Tony Fernandez bounces one back to Moore. Moore throws wild to second. Felix goes to third. Later, he would score on a ground out by Kelly Gruber to put the Jays up. Still 1-0 in the bottom of the sixth. Moore's pitch gets away from Steinbach. Fernandez trying to score. He's called out at home. And Fernandez on the play jams his left shoulder. His status is now day-to-day. He had to leave the game. Bases loaded for Steinbach in the top of the seventh, and he takes Dwayne Ward over the left field wall for the grand slam, making it 4-1 A's. And that's the first homer that Ward has given up over 82 innings. And who said the ball doesn't carry at the Sky Dome? Sure did over this weekend, as the two teams banged out 13 homers in the 4-game series. And in Cleveland, the Rangers visiting the Indians, as Brad Cummings, who's really starting to make his mark in the majors, drove in 4 runs with the help of a 3-run homer. The Indians began the weekend as the lowest scoring team in the American League, but they totaled 29 runs to beat the Rangers 3 times this weekend. Gary?
Detroit's season has been an unmitigated disaster, especially in comparison to a world championship in '84, a division title in '87, and just missing another division title by 1 game last fall. Since then, it has been all fall, with a 10-game losing streak the latest embarrassment. By contrast, Seattle has never finished over 500, but the Mariners are riding the hottest streak in the game. 13 wins in their last 16 as they went for a sweep at Tiger Stadium this afternoon. Sparky Anderson mired in that 10-game losing streak, the longest in 7 seasons in the Motor City. So he goes to Charles Hudson to try and solve it, and the top of the first, trouble already. Jeffrey Leonard hits one that just outruns Gary Pettis. Alvin Davis comes home, and the double makes it 1-0 Seattle. Tigers come back to tie it at 1-1, still batting in the first. Tracy Jones against Gene Harris and rocks this curveball. His 3rd home run of the year is a 3-run shot into the bleachers, 4-1 Tigers. Seattle comes back. It's 4-3 in the fifth. Lou Whitaker facing reliever Jerry Reed. He goes down and gets it and puts it into the upper deck. A 2-run shot. Whitaker extends his career high to 19 home runs now as the Tigers hold on and finally win a game. It's not only Charles Hudson's first win in more than the year, but the first victory by a Tiger starter in the last 22 games. The Mariners fall back to 500 as they move on to Baltimore on Monday. At Yankee Stadium, a game played in a steady rain throughout, looking for any kind of cover, and so were the Kansas City Royals, who got shelled by the Yanks. Don Mattingly knocks in Luis Polonia. Yanks take a 1-0 lead. Mattingly had a couple of RBIs in the day. In the second, still 1-0. Why are we showing you Jesse Barfield? Because he was showing off again. Danny Tartabull hits it into the corner and then challenges the best arm in baseball. That's 17 outfield assists on the season for Barfield this year. The Yanks hold on to that 1-0 lead. Then in their half of the second, Terry Leach, who made a home in Queens much of his career, the former Met, had a bad outing, and it didn't help when Ray Palacios throws that ball away. The big inning, a 5-run six, as the Mets get 14 hits, and they only batted 6 times. The game was called because of that steady rain in the 7th inning. Fortunately for the Royals, because the damage had already been done in just 6.5 innings. Good news for Greg Cataray. Gets his first career complete game. Yanks are back over 500, alone in second place, 6 back of Baltimore. At the Metrodome, the Twins hosting Boston in a tight game. Bottom of the 8th, tied at 1. Lee Smith on in relief when Kent Herbeck goes opposite field and over the wall. Back-to-back home runs with Kirby Puckett, and the Twins take a 2-1 lead to the 9th. Where Mike Greenwell faces Jeff Reardon, who has struggled of late. Hung a curve, and Greenwell hung it over the wall. Ties the game at 2, and the Red Sox last at bat. In the 11th, Boston had taken a 3-2 lead, but Tim Laudner drives this ball to left field. Carmen Castillo diving in behind Gary Gaetti, and the rally, the 2-run rally in the bottom of the 11th, wins it for the Twins. Reardon has now blown 4 of his last 6 save opportunities. Puckett overall went 3 for 5. He leads the American League at 341, has the top batting average in that league. At Comiskey Park, Richard Dotson had a 1-hitter into the 8th, then got relief help from Paul and Bobby Thigpen to shut down Milwaukee. White Sox manager Jeff Torborg started the series with a 6-game losing streak and a lucky windbreaker. They swept 4 from the Brewers for the first time in 5 years, and he still has that wind. It was hot today. It was in the 80s, but I don't think he's going to take that windbreaker off for a while.
Boy, they really have the Brewers' number. They beat them 10 out of 12 times this season. Now Milwaukee finds themselves 10 games out of first place in the East. Coming up, we have the National League. The Mets were in Atlanta, and they were looking to gain some ground in the National League East. Instead, it was the groundskeepers who were very busy with numerous rain delays, and Darrell Evans showering the Mets with something else.
And it wasn't any less wet in Williamsburg, where water hazards took on a whole new meaning, and they still haven't figured out a winner.
We go above and beyond just like you, above and beyond what we have to do.
I'm a Prudential representative, and I help people review their life insurance needs because I know how much the right life insurance means to me and my family.
You take pride in your life, so do we. Going above and beyond is our policy. The Rock, the Prudential, above and beyond.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension.
My name is Talkie Tina, and I think I could even hate you.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Rod Serling invited you to enter the Twilight Zone, and now you can, on video cassette, exclusively from the CBS Video Library. Complete, uncut, without commercials. See why the critics raved. See leading actors like William Shatner. You'll get your first cassette, 4 classic half-hour episodes for only $4.95, and discover why Rod Serling's creation won 3 Emmy Awards by making you believe the unbelievable.
Time enough at last.
Every 6 weeks, you'll receive a new 4-episode video cassette for a 10-day risk-free preview. The Twilight Zone. Now it's yours to own. Enter it whenever you want.
To order now, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-453-3212. No CODs, please. That's 1-800-453-3212.
Tomorrow, Jim Ray sparks Montreal, one of the National League's hottest clubs, in a clash with Atlanta and Lonnie Smith. It's a battle of the North and South. Live at 7:30 Eastern on TBS tomorrow.
Welcome back to our show. Into San Francisco, with the National League's second-best pitching staff, welcome back its second-best starter. The Giants' Scott Geraltz has made a commendable conversion back to starting pitching and returned to the rotation in winning form as the Giants wrapped up a series with the Pirates in a windblown Candlestick Park where San Francisco enjoys the best home record in baseball. Top of the first, though, Kevin Mitchell with a little trouble with the turf. Oops, he falls down on that fly ball by Andy Van Slyke that scores Barry Bonds. Pirates take a 1-0 lead. But Pittsburgh had their own problems. Benny DiStefano tries to give Will Clark and Robbie Thompson a throw, hitting it upright into the sun, but a little teamwork pays off. Clark provides some shade, and Thompson makes the grab. Bottom of the fifth, Clark continues on a hot spell, drives this pitch off former teammate Jeff Robinson to score Robbie Thompson. Clark has driven in 19 runs in the last 20 games. And how did the Pirates deal with that, son? DiStefano gives up on this Brett Butler pop. Wilson stays with it, but had to go to his knees to get it. Pittsburgh was taken to its knees, scored just one run against Geraltz and Bedrosian, who has now converted 7 of his 8 save opportunities since coming to San Francisco. The Giants host the Cardinals Monday with Atlee Hammaker coming off the disabled list to pitch that game. The Giants will come into it with a 3-game lead now on the Astros. Houston rained out at the Vet this afternoon. That will be made up as part of a doubleheader next weekend in the Astrodome, while Houston opens the week with a double dip in Shea Stadium. At Chavez Ravine, a couple of Cardinal fans creeping into Dodger Stadium. Scoreless game in the bottom of the second. Jeff Hamilton facing Jose De Leon and reaching down and taking the outside curveball just out of the reach of a diving Vince Coleman, who gives chase, but it's too late. Socha then hits a fly ball to Milt Thompson. Jeff Hamilton will fake breaking, but Thompson bites, takes the running windup, and puts a little too much on the throw. Hamilton comes in, and the Dodgers are up 3-0. Top of the fourth, Cardinals threatening. 2 on against Tim Belcher when Tom Pagnozzi hits it right back to the box. Belcher wheels, gets it to Randolph, who makes the great pivot and turns the double play. And Whitey Herzog's team never figured it out. They got within a run, but that's as close as it came. Despite the loss, though, the Cardinals won the season series 9-3 and expect to activate Willie McGee on Monday. LA will host the Cubs with rookie Ramon Martinez recalled to make that start as the Dodgers release former Card Ricky Horton.
In the East, leading Expos and the struggling Cincinnati Reds are two teams going in different directions. But they looked pretty similar today as they fumbled their way through 12 innings. The two teams combined for, now get this, 6 errors, 17 walks, 2 wild pitches, a pass ball, and 26 strikeouts, not to mention leaving 25 men on base. And this whole affair lasted no less than 4 hours. As we pick up the action at Riverfront, Pete Rose, we'll have the latest on him in just a moment. Top of the fourth, 2-1 Reds. Man on first, Kevin Gross bluffs the bunt, slaps the single into right field, and Spike Owen, watch what he does as he heads for third. He jams his foot under the bag. He would have a severely sprained right ankle on that play. He was taken to the hospital for x-rays and has been placed on the 15-day disabled list. And in the top of the fifth, the Reds still up 2-1, a man on first and second. Tim Wallach at the plate. He tops one to third. Lenny Harris's throw nails Wallace Johnson in the back, and that was just a typical play in this game. Tie ball game at 3 in the top of the fifth. Kent Colvey on to pitch with 2 men on facing Nelson Santavena with a bouncer up the middle. Tim Raines scores the go-ahead run, and the Expos go on to win that one 6-3 as Red starter Jose Rio had to leave the game after just 2 innings because of spasms in his lower back. That's the 3rd time in the last 4 starts he has had to leave because of back problems, and injury problems are the last thing that team needs. To top this game off, the Expos' Bryn Smith was ejected, and he was ejected from the dugout. Meanwhile, the second-place Cubs were visiting the Padres. In the bottom of the second, Rick Sutcliffe on the mound facing Chris James, who is really coming into his own now after the All-Star break with this team. He had 3 hits today, slams the solo home run just over the glove of Dwight Smith. James with his 2nd homer in 2 days to put the Padres up 1-0. Now, with 2 on and 1 out, Roberto Alomar takes off for third. Joe Girardi throws into left field, allowing the run. Parent would go to second for the double steal, and the Padres up 2-0. In the top of the 6th, Lloyd McClendon slams the 2-run shot deep left off Dennis Rasmussen, his 9th of the year, and it was a tie ball game at 2. In the bottom of the 6th, Alomar again singles with no outs and 2 on. That would score Jack Clark to tie the game at 3 apiece. And then Tim Flannery's pinch hit sacrifice fly with the bases loaded in the 6th climaxed the 2-run rally as the Padres beat the Cubs for the 3rd straight time. Mark Davis gets save number 24 on the season as the Cubs trail the Expos by 3.5. The Mets also looking to enter the chase in the East, but they would have to deal with this 2.5 hours total in rain delays today. And what else was raining? It was raining homers. Darrell Evans slams a solo shot off Bob Ojeda. That would be career homer number 408. He would also hit 409 today. The second time this year he's hit 2 homers in a game. Jeff Blauser rips a 2-run single up the middle, scoring Jody Davis and Ed Whited, and that would put the Braves up 3-0. Meanwhile, on the mound, it was the rookie Marty Clary. Pitching shutout ball for over 5 innings. He gets Howard Johnson in the third. He allowed 7 hits in 6 2/3 innings. And Evans, the oldest player in the National League, now moves into sole possession of 21st place on the all-time homer list as the Mets join the Cubs in a tie for 2nd place in the National League East. And the Pete Rose saga picks up again tomorrow as Rose's lawyers head back into the courtroom. They'll have to, and they do have until noon tomorrow to file their brief with U.S. District Judge John Holshoe. And he's going to decide whether Rose's lawsuit against baseball commissioner Bart Giamatti will go to a federal or a state court. Rose's lawyers want the case returned to Cincinnati to Judge Norbert Nadel. Last month, Nadel granted Rose a temporary restraining order that tied the commissioner's hands. Giamatti was prevented from holding a hearing with Rose about baseball's investigation into his alleged gambling. Now, baseball's lawyers want the case heard in federal court, which has traditionally upheld the powers of the commissioner. Whichever way Judge Holshoe decides, and the decision will not come tomorrow, Rose will be protected for 3 days after the decision from any disciplinary action by either Giamatti or the Cincinnati Reds. Gary?
From the Queen City to Betsy King, who spent 7 years in obscurity on the Women's Golf Tour searching for a victory. But in the past 6 seasons, no player on the LPGA or PGA has won more events. And Sunday in suburban Detroit, the ladies' leading money winner claimed the biggest prize of her career. Coming into the final round, tie with Patty Sheehan for the lead, King birdied 4 of the first 7 holes and ran away from the field, her first U.S. Open title. Nancy Lopez birdied 4 of the last 7 to finish a distant second and has still never won this event. King has now won 5 tournaments this season, and the $80,000 winner's check gives her $500,000 for the year, a woman's tour record.
I fought to the end, hoping, you know, maybe Betsy would somehow, how can I say it very nicely, just somehow trip, you know, and make a few mistakes. I didn't expect it. I knew that I was going to have to go out there and do it myself.
I was thinking, you know, this is the 15th Open I've played in. You feel like you should win at some point. You play in so many of them, but you know, it's something you think about as a kid. I said, you always fool around and say, hey, this is a putt to win the Open. Right up until last week, I did that on the putting green in one day.
Fuzzy, it seems as if...
Betsy King, the U.S. Open winner. Many of the PGA's best are in Great Britain already for this week's Open, but among those left behind, Hal Sutton, who hasn't won on the PGA Tour in 3 years, with a great charge at Kings Mills Country Club in Williamsburg, Virginia. He went to 14 under with that eagle at 3. Here at 15, Mike Donald, with a 65 in the day, moves to 16 under with that shot that set up a birdie. That put him in a tie for the lead. Tim Simpson, with a short birdie putt, put him at 14 under. He would eventually finish at 16 under, which is where Mike Hulbert was at 18, but blew that par. But the leaderboard was crowded enough, and the skies opened up to dampen the playoff. It was a 3-way playoff between Simpson, Donald, and Sutton. Sutton on a 3rd extra hole double bogeyed. And then darkness descended, and so they'll have to have a playoff on Monday morning between Tim Simpson and Mike Donald. And it would be quite a playoff for Donald. He has never won a PGA event, so it'll be a little bit of a thrill for him. The seniors were in Grand Rapids, and if you've never heard of John Paul Kane, it's because he never played in the PGA Tour. In fact, he just joined the seniors last fall, and Sunday afternoon, the 53-year-old stockbroker from Houston won his first pro event. I'm sure he's a Houston legend, right?
Oh, yeah, what a great story. Now, not so great a story for the America's Davis Cup team, but the USA with a strong showing in France, as the only American ever to win the Tour de France sets himself up for a repeat and a change of clothes today. We'll tell you about it coming up on CNN Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish my old partner was here tonight, because this used to be our song.
All my dreams come true. You're my arms, button bomb, and a home for two.
In the movies,
happy endings are easy, but in the real world, they take solid planning. So for investment advice, peace of mind, even buying or selling a home, come to the companies of the Prudential and build your future on the rock.
Homebound Traffic Report is next after this.
Stop at Radio Shack and save over $600 on the easy-to-use Tandy 1000 TL computer. It's more advanced than other IBM PC compatibles. With DeskMate built in, it's ready to use instantly. Plus, you get a color monitor and a bonus package of 3 additional home and office software programs, even a mouse, all for just $12.99. You save over $600 on the greatest Tandy 1000 offer ever. Only at Radio Shack, the technology store.
Traffic's tied up on Main near Radio Shack.
Tonight, Vive la France! How have the French influenced other countries around the world? Is there a new French Revolution? Find out on CNN World Report, midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific, tonight.
Welcome back. Next week, the U.S. Davis Cup team will have to go into a semifinal match against West Germany without one of its key players, John McEnroe. McEnroe withdrew from the singles competition when he was diagnosed as having rotator cuff tendinitis in his left shoulder. That's the same problem that hampered McEnroe in his semifinal match at Wimbledon. McEnroe will be replaced on the U.S. team by Brad Gilbert, who joins Andre Agassi in the 4 singles matches. Gilbert, by the way, is 3-1 in his career against one of the West German participants, a guy named Boris Becker. In other tennis tonight, rain forced the cancellation of the scheduled singles and doubles finals of the U.S. Pro Tennis Championships in Brookline, Massachusetts. Second-seeded Mats Wilander was scheduled to meet 6th-seeded Andres Gomez, who beat Agassi last night. Also a fine doubles player that Gomez was involved in that competition. The finals for all the events will be rescheduled for later this summer, depending on the availability of the 5 players involved. Gary?
A week ago, Greg LeMond was leading the Tour de France, but fearing he would lose that lead when the grueling cycling race headed into the Alps. Frenchman Laurent Fignon was far more accomplished in mountain terrain, and indeed, the past 5 days, Fignon has held the lead. Sunday, Steven Rooks of Holland won the 24-mile 15th stage, with LeMond 5th, nearly a minute behind. But more importantly, LeMond picked up 47 seconds on Fignon and surged into a commanding lead in the overall standings. Monday, the cyclists get a day of rest before commencing on the final week of the Tour, which ends next Monday in the streets of Paris. On 4 wheels at the Meadowlands, auto racing wasn't spared Sunday's rain. Mario Andretti's bird's-eye view of this mishap in Giant Stadium's parking lot at the Meadowlands. Andretti came out of it all right, but his son had trouble. Michael on lap 90 gets his brakes locked up, and he's out of the race. The rain was so persistent, though, that they weren't even able to finish. It was scheduled for 150 laps, but after 145, they finally called it, and Bobby Rahal was in the lead. Emerson Fittipaldi finally cooled off a little bit by that rain, although he did finish second and still has a commanding lead in the overall standings, having won the last 3 races previously. In England, Alain Prost won his 2nd straight Formula One race, increasing his record to 38 career victories and also expanding his lead in the season standings to 20 points over Ayrton Senna.
Well, I think we've just about done it all, but we wouldn't think of sending you into another work week without something to cap off your weekend. Oh, yes, it's a play of the day, and even more than one this time.
For the Padre.
First of all, we take you to Atlanta. Joe Girardi fails one off the right side. Now watch Tony Gwynn running. This is why Tony Gwynn wins Gold Gloves in right field, and this is why he is our play of the day, but that's not all. At Comiskey, Carlton Fisk looking for career hit number 2,000. Watch Robin Yount in the gap, the diving catch, ice cream cone catch, and that's a double dip play of the day.
Play of the day, brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aids for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
For an ice cold Bud?
And where does she come from?
We go above and beyond just like you, above and beyond what we have to do.
I'm a Prudential representative. When I talk to people about CDs and mutual funds, they're surprised at the wide range of investment opportunities I can offer.
You work hard, so do we, to make what you work for a reality. The Rock, the Prudential, above and beyond.
Lethal Weapon 2. Enough action and excitement for 2 movies.
Now we're cooking.
Pure dynamite, Rex Reed. More fun than the first Gene Shalit.
I have to live with that.
Lethal Weapon 2, rated R. Also now showing the real story. The love story. A woman in danger. A hero in black. Critics rave it could be the movie of the decade.
I'm Batman.
Rated PG-13. Both playing separately.
And that just about does it for us. Again, a recap. The Baltimore Orioles still with the largest lead in the major, 6-game lead in the American League East, and things tightening up elsewhere.
Oakland closing in on California. They're just a half a game back now as we get ready to start Week 16 in baseball. That's our time for now. I'm Gary Miller.
And I'm Hannah Storm. Thanks for joining us as the news continues on CNN.